Destiny 2's Onslaught is shaping up to be one of the best seasonal activities ever released in Destiny 2. With the difficulty scaling quite well and the rewards actually feeling useful, this is by far one of the best activities to date in Destiny 2. Getting the 50 waves completed on Legendary difficulty isn't the easiest activity to do, and at times it can be quite difficult. So in today's video, I want to cover the top 10 most used weapons in Onslaught so far. These 10 weapons are the most popular and most used in Onslaught because they are most likely the best weapons to use, and if you aren't using them, you should definitely start using them because they will 100% help you get those 50 waves cleared. Starting the list off with number 10, we have the Polaris Lance. With this season's artifact mods leaning very heavily into solar builds, there is no questions asked here as to why the Polaris Lance is in the top 10. The 3 artifact mods that you want to be running with this gun is Kindling Trigger, which when radiant causes enemies to be scorched, Flint Striker, which allows rapid precision hits and rapid solar weapon final blows to grant you radiant, which gives you a 30% damage boost, and Rays of Precision, which allows solar final blows to cause combatants to ignite. Combining all 3 of these with the Polaris Lance's Scorch and Ignite capabilities, this weapon is one hell of an explosion machine. Just chain some headshot kills on the higher health enemies and you will see massive Ignite damage and Scorch spreading everywhere. This is definitely a good weapon to sit back and hold the ADU from afar and just sit in a well of radiance and deal massive damage. Coming in at number 9, we have the Wither Horde. Now there's no questions here either, the Wither Horde is just one of the best guns in the game. This has always been in the top 15 weapons every single season in Destiny, it's just overall a great gun. Now the playstyle that I assume most players are using with the Wither Horde is by blocking off enemy paths. Where enemies are spawning, they just throw a Wither Horde down and it's gonna sit there and poison and kill enemies as they spawn and come closer to the ADU. It's pretty much just like putting a trap down, and not to mention if you have the catalyst, it has auto-loading holster, so you can put it away for automatic reloads. This is also a great weapon to use on the boss rounds every 10 rounds to just do a little bit extra damage to the boss. Just stick the boss and run away and survive, and eventually the boss will die. Jumping over into number 8, we have the Gjallarhorn. Now the Gjallarhorn is just overall a great rocket launcher, especially for clearing ads and also buffing your teammates. With its exotic perk Wolfpack rounds, this basically just adds tracking cluster bombs to the explosions, meaning it will deal with any ads that you shoot in the area. It's super easy to use, it does good damage, and it will also buff your teammates if they are using rocket launchers. So when you finally do get to that 10th round where the bosses are, and you have one person with Gjallarhorn and 2 other people with rocket launchers, you are going to do a lot of damage to the bosses. Moving on to number 7, we have the Edge Transit. Now this is a new Brave Arsenal weapon that just come out with Into the Light, and it is shaping up to be the new best heavy weapon to deal damage to bosses with. Now with this weapon having various gold rolls depending on how you like to use your heavy weapons, this weapon is by far a great grenade launcher to do massive damage to bosses. Now because it is also a grenade launcher, it also has great ammo economy, meaning you can use a few of the shots to deal with any major or yellow bars that are quite hard to kill. Either way, grenade launchers are definitely coming back to be a competitor to rocket launchers for boss DPS. Now with the Edge Transit, I'm going for Envious Assassin and Bait and Switch, but you can also go for many other roles just depending on what you like. So basically what I'm saying, if you haven't got a gold roll Edge Transit yet, I definitely recommend you keep trying to get one. Up next, we have the Mountaintop in at number 6. Now the Mountaintop is also a new Brave Arsenal weapon, but this is a previous weapon that we've had before that everyone loves, and it's a little bit of nostalgia. Now this weapon is a little bit different than the previous version of this gun, and I think the way Bungie wants us to use this gun is for a hard-hitting special weapon to deal with either bosses or any mages. With its new frame style, the micro missile frame, this weapon just deals hard-hitting damage with one shot depending on the role you have. Now one of the great roles that I've got so far is Overflow and One for All. This means when I pick up special ammo, it's going to double my magazine, giving me 2 shots in one mag. And then if I can hit 3 enemies with the first shot, it should give me a 35% damage boost for the second shot. With these 2 perks on this gun, it should be great to deal massive damage to a yellow bar or any mages. Either way, this is a very good gun, and if you haven't got one yet, I definitely recommend you try and get one. Coming up to the halfway mark here, in number 5, we have the Zali's Bane. Now the Zali's Bane is by far one of the best weapons to use this season, just like I said with the Polaris Lance, in refers to the artifact mods. Now the gold roll for the Zali's Bane is Explosive Payload and Incandescent. And very similar to the Polaris Lance, when you combine this solar weapon with all of the artifact mods, this weapon is completely unstoppable in killing lots and lots of ads. Just simply look at all the gameplay footage on your screen. This weapon is just igniting, it is incandescenting, It's scorching, everything is just dying and exploding. It's very satisfying and it is a very, very good weapon to use. Now this weapon comes from the King's Fall raid, so if you haven't done any of them, I definitely recommend you try and get one. This thing is basically just a mini sunshot that is an exotic, so if you're saving that exotic slot for something else and you don't want to use the sunshot, the Zali's Bane is a great second option. Coming in at number 4, we have the Indebted Kindness Rocket Sidearm. Now I'm going to be honest, without Aztecross actually vouching for this weapon and using it in almost every single one of his videos, I would never have even thought to try this gun out, but I'm glad I did. This weapon is seriously incredible. It is by far one of my new favorite guns to use in the game. It has a lot of ammo, which makes it very easy to use, and it also hits extremely hard. Now the gold roll that I have is beacon rounds and vault shot. Vault shot is by far one of the best perks to use in any high enemy density areas. With the lightning chaining around and constantly zapping everything, dealing massive damage, and then you have your rocket sidearm to deal even more damage, this weapon is seriously, seriously good. If you put on some mods on your armor to get extra special ammo, you can pretty much only ever use this gun and never run out of ammo. This weapon comes from the Warlords of Ruin dungeon, which came out this season, and if you haven't got one yet, I definitely recommend you try and get one. It has seriously, seriously impressed me ever since I've put it on. Not to mention, in the artifact mods, we have piercing sidearms, so that you can use sidearms to deal with any anti-barrier champions, and because there is quite a few anti-barriers in Onslaught, this is also another reason to pull this weapon out. Wrapping the list up here, in at number 3, we have the Dragon's Breath. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm quite surprised to see this rocket launcher here in the top 3 most used weapons, but it definitely makes sense when you can think about it. Again, with all of the solar boosting perks in the artifact, and with actually how much damage the Dragon's Breath can do to a boss, and also deal with all the ads in that boss room, this is actually a really good option to use. Sit in a well of radiance in the middle of the room, shoot the boss with the rocket launcher, it's going to set a trail of fire, it's going to ignite everything, and it's going to deal massive damage to the boss. I don't know why I haven't thought of using this sooner. Especially if you get Fallen and you get a Brig, this is probably one of the best weapons to use because it's got no critical hit point. Not to mention, when you're dealing with waves of ads and you shoot it down an alleyway, any enemies that run through that alley are going to be set on fire. This is honestly a really good gun and I definitely recommend you guys give it a go. As for the second most popular weapon, we have the Apex Predator. This weapon talks for itself. It is the best rocket launcher in the game to use. With reconstruction and also bait and switch, this is a heavy hitting weapon. If you're going for the classic damage dealing boss rotation, you want to use an Izanagi's Burden, a SMG, and then also the rocket launcher to just deal massive damage to the boss and nuke it down before your Well of Radiance ends. Not to mention, if you ever get any yellow bars or mages or mini bosses in the waves, you can pull it out and deal massive damage to them as well. This is a great weapon to also deal with shriekers if they ever spawn. It will most likely just one-shot them. Overall, the Apex Predator is a great weapon to use, and I assume by now almost every player probably has one. Wrapping the list up here, and the number 1 most used weapon in Onslaught is the sunshot. I don't think anyone is surprised to hear that information. The sunshot is the best weapon to use this season. I've already mentioned it twice in this video. The artifact mods carry the sunshot incredibly well. The sunshot's intrinsic trait, Sunburn, basically just gives this weapon explosive payload. Now, its exotic perk Sunblast will also just give it basically incandescent, meaning every time you shoot a shot, it's going to deal extra damage with that sunburn, and then when they do die with Sunblast, they're going to then explode and also scorch enemies around them. Now, with the artifact mod also helping you scorch more enemies, this weapon just ignites enemies even faster. The artifact mod will also make you radiant, making this weapon deal more damage, and then the artifact mod will also help you ignite more enemies than what this weapon would do by itself. There's not much to explain here, just simply look at the footage you can see on your screen. Everything is exploding and the sunshot is clearing them with complete ease. If you are also a Void Hunter and you use a tether, this weapon is even better because it's going to debuff them and then also share the damage around. I assume no one watching this video hasn't already tried the sunshot and seen the power of it, but if for some reason you are that person, definitely pull this gun out of your vault and give it a go. But anyway, Guardians, that will wrap the video up there. There are the top 10 most popular weapons being used in Onslaught right now. If for some reason you aren't using any of these weapons and you still haven't hit wave 50, I think there's a pretty simple answer as to what weapons you should start using. But anyway, Guardians, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, comment down below, and let me know in the comments down below what your favorite weapon to use in Onslaught is. But anyway, Guardians, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.